Let's see what happens. Here we go.
Here we go.
Welcome to another edition of Interruptions. I'm your host, Otis Smith. You might have seen my guest on The Facts of Life, One Life to Live. You might have seen him on Blacklist, Blue Bloods. I first discovered this man on As the World Turned playing Craig Montgomery, the talented, brilliant actor, Scott Bryce. How you doing, sir?
Oh, thank you for that, Otis. I'm doing well in a wacky world. As long as I don't watch the news, I'm fine.
Yeah, hey, you and me both. You and me both. I
Yeah.
do not like watching the news.
Weird days we are in, but this too shall pass. That's what I keep saying to myself.
That's a good word.
We'll get through it.
What drew you to acting?
Well, I grew up in it. I'm at least 3 generations, possibly 4, if you count the circus back in Scotland. And then my grandfather, Whitey Main, was a lead booking agent for the Keith Albee vaudeville circuit, and he managed Mae West and the Marx Brothers. And my grandmother, Alice Hurley Main, worked for Selznick Select Pictures back when Hollywood movies were silent movies.
Okay.
Shot in New York and shot in Long Island. And when they moved out to Los Angeles, they asked my grandmother to go. She was a very high-ranking executive for a female in that day. And my grandfather said, "Nah, this moving picture thing, it's a flash in the pan. Vaudeville will never die." So they wound up in real estate.
Wow.
The depression. And then my mother founded their daughter, one of 8 kids. My mother founded the Greenwich Mews Playhouse and hired my father to play Creon in Antigone. And that's how they met. So that was like right after World War II, when my father got back from the war. And then along came the kids. And at first, I didn't want to do it. It was what my parents did. I had a lot of respect for it. I remember going to go see, my father was doing a play called A Man for All Seasons in New York. And I was up in the lighting booth watching, and comes the scene where they talk about the law.
Okay.
And Thomas More talks about the importance of the law. And he says, you don't cut down laws. He says, well, I cut down any law to get, the young man passion is like, you cut down any law to get where you need to get to the devil. He says, all right, when you cut down every law there is, and there's nowhere to hide when the wind turns on you, where will you go? And there was a moment in the theater, it was quiet, it was like silent. And I was only like 8 years old, and I realized that theater was more than entertainment, that it could actually be church.
Oh, wow.
And, so that stuck with me, but I still didn't want to do it. It was what Mom and Dad did.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a doctor. And then we were traveling we were finishing up junior high school and about to do the tour of Staples High School. Now, if you want to have a fun factoid mission, go look up the alumni for the Staples Players, which is the drama club at Staples High School in Westport, Connecticut.
Okay.
And it's pretty amazing amount of people, like starting with like Christopher Lloyd and going through amazing people all the way today, still on Broadway. So anyway, we're doing a tour of all the buildings because we're the junior high school kids, and where do we go? And we come to the theater, and the group I'm with the teachers left. They walked away, and I didn't know it. And I was alone on the stage looking up at the flies. Now, for those who don't know theater, the flies is where you would store sets. It's a enormous height with ropes. So I was looking way up at this unbelievable place because the theater is actually huge. You can see, I think it's like 1,200 people. It's enormous. And way from the back, way up in the back, was the drama teacher's voice, but I couldn't see him. It's black. It's like the voice of God.
Okay.
And he goes, "Feel like you're home?" And I turned around. And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Good. You're the lead in the next play. I'll send the script to your parents' house." And I left, and he put me in. I got cast as Tommy in The Brick and the Rose, won all state, and I won Best Actor. And then sort of it. And then when I did the ruling class as a junior in high school, playing a paranoid schizophrenic who thinks he's Jesus Christ. That's just the first act. Crazy play by Peter Bards.
Wow.
At the end, my parents came back, and they were very, very somber. I'm one of 3. I'm the youngest of 3 boys. And it was odd. My parents were like really kind of weird and quiet. So I'm thinking something's going on. And I looked at my father. I said, "Was I all right?" And my father said, "You were brilliant, son. We'll see you at home." And I'm like, okay, one of my brothers is like hurt. There's been a car accident. I don't know what's going on. I went to the cast party. I couldn't get it out of my mind. I went home early. My mother is sobbing on the couch in my father's arms. Now, remember, my mother is an actress. My
Okay.
father is an actor.
Right.
She's sobbing. I go, what is it? She looks up and she says, we know you're an actor. She was just, they were horrified. They were praying for a podiatrist or a doctor or
Right.
something. But yeah, I'm in the business. And I would feel the same way in many ways about my son if he went there. It's as my father said, it's a horrible business filled with wonderful people. And that's true. But I think that she knew there was no way to protect me from the pain,
Right.
rejection, from the struggle.
You got to go through it.
Right. And yet, I look back, I thought I had a struggle. I was on television at 22 years old. Are you kidding me? I drove cabs I was a bartender, a bouncer, a cab driver, delivered flowers, but for what? 3 years, 4 years?
Right.
Then I was working as an actor, and I've been working ever since. I mean, I am incredibly lucky.
It's your acting skill, and it's going to segue to my next question. But it's funny that you said at first you wanted to be a doctor, because excuse me, the way you come across on screen is you're very cerebral in your approach to the character. You're like a technician, a tactician of the art, which is that, because it leads into my second question, far as what did you learn coming from the theater world before you being on Broadway, before you got into television and film?
Well, again, I was blessed by that acting teacher who asked me if I felt like I was home from the back of the theater, Al Pia, who was an extraordinary acting teacher. And I was blessed with my family, my parents, particularly my dad.
Right.
My family and I wound up working together a lot. My brother Phil did a play with them. Then my mother created a show called The Bible on Broadway, which is based on a book of the same name, but takes scenes and music from all kinds of Broadway shows having to do with religion of some kind. So whether that be Jesus Christ Superstar, or whether that be Martin Luther, or whether that be A Man for All Seasons, or not Hair, excuse me, but anything having to do with religion. And we took excerpts and scenes and songs from them, and she crafted a show out of it.
Wow.
I learned a lot with that. I was doing a college play. I was doing a very difficult and bad production of La Ronde, which is an old Arthur Schnitzler piece. There's only 2 characters on stage at any one time. And I knew that the play was deadly. And I'm like, I'm going to get killed. And I started at the beginning of Act 2, and I knew that the audience is already going to hate it. And I went to my father. I said, what do I do? And he looked at me, he said, a moving target is really hard to hit. I go, what is that? What does that mean? He goes, don't stop moving, number 1. Number 2, make your entire motivation for the entire time you're on stage to exit. Try to exit and have the other actors stop you and just try to get off. And I did. That's what I did. I was the only one who got a good review, because it was like my scenes went by really crazy fast. So I learned that lesson from him. I learned about when you're playing a villain, don't play a villain, because villains don't know they're villains. As my dad said, no man does anything wrong and convinces himself he's right first. I thought, wow, that's deep, and that, so you don't play cardboard. I try to play very deep people. And then in terms of theater, the other lesson he taught me was that the audience is a character. And I didn't really understand that at first. And he said, and when it's a really good play, that'll happen very quickly. But that's the magic. The magic of the theater is a group of people who don't know each other, right? Nobody's ever met. Some of them maybe, but very few.
Right.
From all walks of life. They've got all kinds of cultural backgrounds, all kinds of economic backgrounds. Maybe not on Broadway, you just got to be rich to go. But in general in the theater. And we walk into this room and the lights go off. And we watch other people up on stage performing as other humans. And then something happens. We relate to those characters. We start to laugh at the same time. The whole audience is responding. The audience becomes one thing. It becomes a character in the play. And if the actors are smart, you work with that character. They tell you when the laugh is over. They tell you when the laugh is coming. And it's they as a entity. It's hard to describe. And the character changes every night depending on the show. But they are a thing. And when you are aware of it, they can elevate you and lift you and make the play even better. So my dad taught me that subtle stuff that you don't learn in an acting class per se, you know?
I wanted your perspective because I've been blessed lately to interview people like yourself who have that theater background, and you all, without saying it, saying the same words, but kind of saying the same way, is that theater is like your root of your craft, and it allowed. And Renee Lawless said to me, she said that when you've done theater, right, you have a base that other people don't have. Even though they might have taken acting classes and done things, they don't have that fundamental base that you guys have. And you learn to work with a lot of different instruments that you can take into TV and film that someone that is just took acting classes may not have.
I agree with that. I think you can also, and I think most theater actors can, I can spot somebody who's got a theater background really quickly. And it's how they arrive in rehearsal. It's just like when they walk in, it's the entrance.
Wow.
And you go, theater dude or theater gal or whatever,
Right.
And that already informs me a lot that they've already done homework in a way that theater people do. I'm not trying to denigrate people who've only done camera work, but it's very different.
Yeah.
There's an actor, a movie star on As the World Turns years ago, and he had just started the show. And the first day he walked over to me with the script. We were dry block rehearsal in the morning at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And he walked over and he looked at me and he said, "How much of this are we doing today?" And I said, "All of it." The blood starts draining from his face, because in Hollywood, if you're making a feature film, if you do 2 minutes worth of film a day, you're cranking. Now in television, you're doing like this 40 minutes really of dialogue with the commercials.
Right.
And theater is the only place where, we have weeks of rehearsal before we open. We can explore, we can learn each other. We become a team of a cast if the play's good. Right. And if that's going well. And we tell the story from beginning to middle and end. So when the curtain goes up, the actors own the medium. In television, the television writers own it. And in feature film, the director owns it.
The director and the edit.
And the edit. Exactly.
Yeah. Got it.
You work in a different way. You work in film and TV, it's in these like bursts. You hurry up and wait and then go out, bam. And then it's like, over and you're back in your trailer. Theater's a different thing. You live it. You live that.
Is theater like kind of like if Scott wrote a piece, whether it's theater or film, is it kind of like being in theater? It's like you're writing because you're seeing it from beginning, middle to end. So it's kind of like, like when you get a script and they say, "Hey, Scott, we want you to be in this," and you're reading the whole script all the way through. Is that like kind of also like theater is, because you're from beginning to middle to end, like you're seeing the whole play through, whereas like you said with TV and film, I only might need you for 3 or 4 minutes. I need you to come in, shoot this scene, and then of course you're out.
Well, and the other difference is in both television and particularly film, it is truly a visual medium. So the story is told in far more than the character. It's the frame of the picture. It's where that edit happens. It's what's the pacing on the scene? What's the palette? All those things become incredibly important.
Okay.
And so dialogue is far less. You speak a lot less in a movie than you do on stage. On stage, it's the actor is coloring everything. The actor's doing the storytelling. And so it's a different way of doing it because it's not a visual medium. You're experiencing the play through the eyes and the ears and the experience of the characters that you hopefully are relating to.
Sure. Right. I get it. I have to live through you, the character. You have to, as the character, you have to take me somewhere.
I'm taking you on that journey. And
Yeah.
as an actor in a movie, I do a movie and then I go to the movie and watch it, and then there you are, and I go, "Oh wow, Otis is in this movie. I didn't know that." I never saw you those days. you
Gotcha.
know, you were in the
Got it.
hospital stuff. I was over in the war zone. I never saw.
Got
So
it.
literally, you cannot. If you're lucky, you have a table read where you meet everybody. But you
Mhm.
can be in films or television shows. I don't know who's in it until I watch it. And again, the theater, you start that table read, you start by blocking. It is a much slower thing. I don't need to have a result at 2 o'clock this afternoon on
Gotcha.
camera. I
Mhm.
have time to go, who is this guy? What is this relationship? What's this play about? What's the arc of the play? What's my journey in it? What's the job of my character
Okay.
to serve the piece? It's a different way of working, and it's fully immersive. And then again, you stay in character for the run of the story. And then
Gotcha.
so it's a different thing. You're not working again in person. Oh my God, Nancy McKee. Here's a trivia. How many times have I been married on television, Otis?
Ooh, I would say about 5 or 6.
I
Yeah.
believe the number is 5 and an almost.
Yeah, that's why I said 5 or 6. I was going to pull the other one from the soap, but I like a lot of people use that. I said let's go with Facts of Life.
Oh, she was great. Nancy and I are still friends. And that was an amazing experience. I got that job because Nancy and the other women, young ladies at the time, girls on the show, watched As the World Turns. They were fans.
See,
But when my character left the show, Nancy McKeon said, "Bring me Scott Bryce." Next thing I knew, I was on a plane and on the show, which for an actor was a huge leap. It's very difficult. It's different today, but it was very difficult to get from daytime to the primetime and primetime to film.
Oh yeah, I remember those days that where if you did movies, that's all you did.
That's all you did.
And if you did TV, that's all you did.
All you did.
Like it's not like now where everything intertwines.
That's right.
So if you saw someone that you always saw in the movie show up on a TV show, well, it was like a real big thing because it was like that just doesn't
Hasn't
happen.
happened. Right.
And so,
And I could also tell you, like a fan, I know what the fan is from based on how they're treating me. Like if it's a feature film, they stay across the street and point. If it's prime time, they respectfully approach. If it's daytime, they smack you on the back because they see you every day in their living room and they're naked, So you're like, it's a different relationship that they have in their heads to the character.
Correct. I wanted to know, my next question was, what was it like for you to go from the soaps to a sitcom and show another layer to your acting chops, that to be able to have that comedic timing and to be in a sitcom away from doing daytime?
Again, I was so blessed and lucky. Most actors don't have the chance to do multiple platforms
Right.
like I did, and at one point I was doing LA Law as a super heavyweight killer lawyer while I'm doing Murphy Brown as Corky Sherwood's husband, Will Forrest, making her Corky Sherwood Forrest, right? So, and that was like happening simultaneously. Again, I'm very lucky for that to occur. A lot of people, I'm a believer that there's a huge amount of really talented actors out there.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it that makes the star? Is it the star or is it the opportunity for that part? And when somebody gets written an incredible role, it's like, oh my God, how do get out of your own way and do the job, and you're going to be great, right?
Yeah.
And so it's opportunities. So yeah, I was able to go from the soap to the Facts of Life and be really silly. And then next thing I knew, I was like doing, LA Law. Wow. And I was James Pavlik. They called me Pavlik's dogs. We were like these, killer attorneys. And then go run over and do Murphy Brown, and then go do a different thing. I was very, truly, truly blessed that I could do that.
And that's that theater background, because I had interviewed actor Patrick Malone, who played on A Different World, and I could see just his acting chops from going from playing a character that was silly, right? And then in one, he could go in one scene, he could be silly and then serious, all in
Right.
the same scene. Yeah, and when I interviewed, that I found theater background, and when
Yeah.
and that's why I say I love the fact that talking to people who have that theater background, because you guys have learned to use, as Erica Gimple calls it, different muscles, but
Yes.
they could be used all in one
Yeah.
scene, where someone else, like you said, not trying to discount anybody else's training,
Right.
but you guys learn to use all that in one scene. Because I had asked her, how do you plan on Fame? How do you go from singing a song, right, to boom, now you're back to acting in a serious conversation?
Well, it's also, and also the skill set that the theater gives you, which it's harder to go the other way. It's easy to go if you've got a theater background and you're trained in the theater and you've done plays and you've gotten good. Then when you transfer to film, it's a very weird thing, because you have to reduce your performance, because you're going from I have 1,100 viewers to I have a camera lens. The only thing that's important is the camera lens. And whether the camera lens loves you or not is genetics. And if you're lucky and it does, then you'll be all right. And you have to, that becomes that third character, that other character I talk about,
Right.
but it's one that you completely ignore. You're hyper aware of where it is. I know where the glass is. That's like, it's right over there, right?
Okay.
But I'm looking at you and I know it's my close-up shot. I can feel it coming tighter,
Wow.
right? But that's a very like shrunken performance. But it must be very difficult to go from that to go fill up a room with 1,100 people.
And then you have to project out.
Right. And it's like, so how do you do that? How do it's not just a matter of volume. And there are many movie actors who've then gone to the stage who have said, Julia Roberts for one, I had no idea. And my respect for theater actors has gone up tremendously, because she thought, oh, you just go do it on the stage. Like, whoa, no, that very different. And again, easier to go from the theater to the camera than it is from camera up, I think.
No, I've listen. I've talked to too many of you to know that you're right. You are right. For you, what are the trappings of the entertainment industry? You have so many people who, like you said, that are maybe good actors and actresses, right, trying to get into the business, and we've seen some that have gotten the business, and the businesses have kind of chewed them up and spit them out. What are some of the trappings that you've seen that that you were able to sidestep?
Oh boy. Well, I had one I couldn't sidestep, which was, and I was even warned by my dad. It was like, be careful of like drug abuse and booze. And I wound up, it's very hard to be an actor. It's very hard to deal with, I don't know when I'm working again, when's that job and here's the bill. And I fought alcoholism for years. I will be 31 years sober coming up, but thank you. Yeah, I'm very blessed with that. But that I had to like go through that struggle and rebuild. That was a really big trap. And I could have, it could have turned out very badly another way. I actually subverted a show that was written for me. I blew it up by basically just being a like hungover mess showing up. And I beat myself up for it for years. And then I had a sponsor in LA at an early program, and I was probably like 3 years sober. And he said, how much are they going to pay you? And I told him, and he went, oh yeah, you'd be dead.
Oh,
I had to like stop and go, wow, whoa, wow. Yeah, I would have been handed the fame. I would not have been able to handle it. And I was already, the fame is a very strange thing. It's different today because it feels like everything feels debased in a way. Maybe it's because it's the cell phone,
That's what I was about to say.
It's like, you're in my back pocket now.
Right.
You're going to step past soap operas in my living room every day. So there's a certain diminishing of that fame stuff. But when I first got famous, I had a hard time psychologically. I had a hard time because the fans don't necessarily care that you're in a fight with your girlfriend right now in the street. They're like walking in, they want a picture.
Yep.
And you know what? They deserve the picture because it's because of the fans that I have a paycheck.
Right.
So that's ultimately my boss. I mean, whoever, you know what I mean? So that's my view of it anyway. But a lot of perks come with it, you know, perks come with it in terms of, you know, you get the free first class upgrade.
Right.
Other perks come with it, which is the availability of, let's say, women. Not necessarily a good thing. Not for a 22-year-old with, you know, giving a 22-year-old a platinum card is a very dangerous
That's
thing.
a day. Oh, I'm with you because I can remember when I was, and if I was in your shoes at that time,
right?
I can imagine. Yeah.
And so, you know, and you don't intend to use people or hurt people, but I think invariably sometimes you do. I don't think I've been a bad guy that way. And I've dodged a couple of bullets coming my way from that, where I was like, oh, wait, this is not, you know, because my dad would always tell, follow your gut, man, follow your gut. If your gut's telling you, listen to it. So there'd be times I'd be like, I don't know, the situation's getting dicey. And I think I'll go back to my hotel room and drink. but I didn't get in serious freaking trouble or particularly hurt anybody. But for the most part, you know, these days it's so hard. It's so hard to, the budgets have changed. When it was, you know, my day, cable was just starting.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. I remember the producers of As the World Turns were panicking when I left because they were down to 18 million viewers. You know, Chicago PD gets 6 million and they're a hit. They would have been canceled with those numbers.
Yeah.
Right. But we have 500 channels.
I was about to say, yeah.
So all of a sudden, there's all these incredible options. It's why the soap operas are very hard to live anymore. They can't afford it. You've got that many, 22 actors. They've all got wardrobe. They've all got houses. They've all got their affairs and their daughters and their, wait, what? How much is this? And to run a soap opera is incredibly expensive.
Is that what happened? Because it was like just one day, it was like, this is going off the air. This is going off the air. I was like, wait, what? Was there a meeting and nobody told me?
Well, actually, there was one enormous thing that happened and most people aren't aware of it. And it's called the O.J. Simpson trial. The O.J. Simpson trial lasted a year.
Right.
And it was on every single channel. There was.
Yep.
That means the stories got stopped for a year. As my father said, somebody said to him, what's the secret of soap operas? He said, well, the bullet leaves the gun on Monday. Now it travels across the room Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's hit somebody Friday, but we won't find out who that is till the following Monday. Now you're suddenly competing with Kato Kalin, the pool boy, and does the glove fit, and who's the waiter with the mob and the car chase. And all of a sudden, if you noticed, news has turned into a lot of our soap operas.
Correct. Yes.
Now suddenly it's like, whether that be whoever we're following or, you know, the Menendez brothers or whatever insanity it is, how is daytime competing with that? After the OJ trial, which interrupted people's habitual watching, I got to get home to watch Guiding Light or As the World Turns, we didn't get half the audience back. So half the audience broke the habit of watching the soaps. And now they take a huge hit. So now suddenly salaries, people are looking, I mean, As the World Turns, man, we were traveling the world. We were shooting in Europe. We were shooting on cruise ships to the Bahamas. The restaurant I owned had this like spiral staircase that went up the Grand Piano Steinway. I mean, you couldn't do that today. There's no way to afford it. You don't have that many aggregate eyeballs watching.
It was just amazing that they were all shutting down like at this. I had never seen that in my life, where all these shows are like just shutting down.
Well, imagine now, that's my grandfather's vaudeville experience, isn't it?
Yep.
As movies come in and bam, 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 and he looks back and goes, wait a minute, what happened? you
Yeah.
know, and probably in a period of a year or two, it was
Hmm.
done.
Yeah.
And probably, you know, I think the soaps took a really big hit. I think it's interesting that COVID sort of re-energized television. Everybody was stuck at home. So, you know, what are we going to do? We're watching TV again. Some numbers on like Young and the Restless came up, and they've
Right.
been able to hold. But I don't know how many soaps are left. Do you notice? I think it's like 3,
I
4.
think it's yeah. Well, actually, I thought it was 3, but you're right. It might be 4. I know it's okay. So you got Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, and you have
General Hospital.
General Hospital.
Is Days of Our Lives still on?
I have no idea. They could be. I never watched it, so
Yeah,
I don't,
yeah.
because I will admit when you left, I know my mother and I was like, oh man, you know, because people don't realize even with soap operas, when you latch onto a character, and it's unfair to like say you, the actor, because you want to do something else, you want to try something else, and your fans are pulling on you like, no, you are Craig Montgomery, you stay right here and you be be this kid, don't you dare go nowhere. And it's kind of unfair, but when you play a role so well, it's just like Eric, what's his last name? Baden, who plays on Young and the Restless, Victor.
Oh, Victor?
Yeah,
Eric Braeden. Yeah, Eric
and,
Braeden.
I
Who's a
mean,
wonderful actor. He's a
you
wonderful
can't,
actor.
but you can't get anybody else to play Victor. Like
Right, right.
if he said I'm leaving today, you might as well cancel the show is over. Like there's nothing you.
Yeah.
It's I said there was 2 people, him and who plays Nikki. Those because they switched Jacks before, but those 2 iconic
Well, they've been
characters.
on it that's Melody
Yeah,
Thomas, right?
Melanie something right. So
Yeah, and they've been on it for how long? I mean, those are lifers. There are people.
at least since I was a kid, and that's a
Well, there you
long
go.
time.
And that's a
That's a
long.
long.
And frankly, for an actor, the soap operas were the only regular job there was.
Yes.
I mean, even a sitcom. What are you talking about? You got 5 years on a soap opera. You sign a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
So it's a very different mentality. And you know, my dad came and left, but he did Guiding Light off and on for like 22 years. You know, I think about how long was Eileen Fulton on As the World Turns? I mean, unbelievable, since like, you know, the 1950s until she'd still be on it, if you know. And I think the show's also made a dramatically bad mistake as budgets got tighter. You start doing plot over people, and they abandoned the core families. They abandoned the families that made you tune in. They were like, you know, it's almost like it's like Shakespearean. I mean, there are people on the Montgomery side, and there's people on the, you know.
No, you know what? I didn't think about it until you said, and you're correct, because even when you had the nighttime soaps like Dallas, you were intrigued by the Ewings.
Exactly. It was the family.
It wasn't even though everybody. My dad loved J.R. Ewing. He's just but still, but it still was the whole Ewing family, the Ewing clan. So even when they tried to bring it back, and it was getting momentum, but unfortunately, Larry Hagman passed away, and they knew then no show. You don't.
There's no point.
Right. There's no.
It might have survived it had the show been going all that time, and then Larry passes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like in, you know, soap opera, the Papa Bauer, Teo Getz, the great actor, you know, he passed, and they wrote it in. Sharita Bauer, who had diabetes and lost her leg to diabetes, they wrote it into the show. And then her character, Burt Bauer, loses her leg to diabetes. You know, and that's now, wow, talk about how's that for an actor? Go play your own reality in your own reality.
Now that's
and when you're doing a soap, I will also tell you the hours, particularly back in the day, were brutal. And you spend way more time with your television family than you do with your own.
Wow. Tell me about SBE Performance and Productions.
Yeah, well, my wife is, besides a Broadway actress and concert giver, she's also a teacher and has been for a long time. And so she's got an entire school here. I have a production wing of the company, and her school's going like gangbusters actually. And she's also got students that she manages who are moving into professional work and professional lives. And when COVID hit, thank God for her, because my brilliant Jody Stevens' wife flipped our front yard, brought in stages and platforms, and then the kids were out there.
Wow.
We also have floor to ceiling windows in our living room that slide open like glass, sliding glass doors all the way around the living room. So when the weather was bad, she'd have them come in and face out the window to sing outside, even in the winter. So that their voices, and nobody ever got sick, thank God. None of the students. And she has since exploded in growth and now has a staff of 5 people. And she offers music theory and dance classes. And we've got kids from elementary school up into college. And then I work with some kids after that and some older people. On the production end of it, I'm a screenwriter. I've got a movie out right now called The Guild. We've got it half cast. We got Dan Loria is in, A. Martinez, who was an old soap actor, and I actually worked with him on LA Law. Arnie Mazur's in it. And it's a comedy about mafia actors. It's actually really very, very
wow.
And then
I can see that. That's why I started smiling.
Yeah, it just makes me smile. So, and then I'm doing 2 documentaries right now. I also serve on the board of directors of the New Paradigm Theater. We're a 501(c)(3) not-for-profit. And we take theater production skills and move into the cities of Connecticut where they can't afford programs. And we're not trying to make thespians. We're trying to create leaders and create people who can think out of the box and do teamwork. And so we do one giant stage production every year. The first one we did Oliver, the musical, except we placed it in modern day Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I had a black Oliver and a Spanish Nancy and a transgender Artful Dodger. And we had Paul Bogave came in and gave the original score like a hip hop edge. And Maria Kravitsky gave it all new choreography with hip hop. And it was amazing. The show was amazing. I then directed, there have been several other shows. They did Peter Pan and Bye Bye Birdie. I directed Hunchback of Notre Dame. Our Hunchback is an incredible actor, equity actor, Patrick Toombs, who has his own challenges. He has to wear braces on his legs because his legs did not grow the way they're supposed to. Magical voice, incredibly talented actor. And there he is. I mean, there's Quasimodo like on stage. There was no makeup. It was just like, there's this dude who's struggling. And we have a youth board of directors that works in outreach programs with kids all over the state. And we brought in younger kids who were on the spectrum of autism. And the voices of the gargoyles are usually voices in the choir. There's a 15-piece orchestra and a 15-piece choir. And normally the gargoyle voices are in the choir. We actually turned them into cast members and we had kids do it. So the kids came in and they made their own gargoyle masks, like in a breakout workshop. We do a lot of workshops with kids besides the rehearsal. The mask turned into this magical thing because when the kids with autism put them on, they felt protected and they could connect with each other, with the characters on stage. They moved freely. And then with Quasimodo, and then when a Frollo or an adult came on, they would freeze and hold it as gargoyles for like 11 minutes. Until the adult left, and then they'd move again. It was really kind of breathtaking. This year we're doing Disney's The Little Mermaid. Our co-partner is the Maritime Aquarium in South Norwalk, Connecticut, which does incredible work. We had some of their children from their Echo team and our kids go out onto the beaches and out into Long Island Sound, where we pulled in trash and plastic. And all of that trash and plastic that we collected from the ocean, we are now turning into their sets and costumes and props. So Ursula's dress, which is unbelievably magnificent, is made out of garbage bags. It's just layers of giant gray garbage bags, and it turns into this dress. Headdresses are, a lot of our characters are Clorox bleach bottles that we found on the beach, and then we dress them up with stones. So the metaphor is that out of our problems, there are solutions. So that's going to be a great show. So tomorrow I've actually got to go interview some people over at the Maritime Center. I'm also going to shoot the shark tanks and the fish tanks, and then we're going to use that as projections in the state-of-the-art theater that we're in. And so when the character's on stage, we got real fish, like going around.
Wow.
That'll be kind of cool. And then I'm working on a documentary up in the corner of Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut at the Bob Wakeman Preserve, which is basically, it looks like swamps. And thank God they've been untouched, because everybody thought they were swamps and nobody wanted to build there.
Okay.
And it turned out to be a miracle, because those swamps are the filters for the water that we drink.
Okay.
Well, I'm going up there and doing a study with him on that. And what else am I doing? And then I continue to audition for stuff, which is just starting to come back. And I've been very blessed. My last 3 jobs have been offers. So I did a Blacklist relatively recently, which was an offer. I didn't have to audition. I did a movie called Redemption in Cherry Springs for Hallmark. Oh, it's my beautiful wife, Jody. And and they've been all offers. And Jody said to me, well, that's because you're such a brilliant actor. And I go, no, that's because people have COVID and the casting directors don't want a lot of people coming in the office. So they're just like offering them out. It's like, who could do this? Scott Bryce, give it in.
Hey, however you get the job, man. However you get the
Spell
job.
my name right on the check.
Right. That's all, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you to tell me about your beautiful wife, Jody Stevens, and what she means to you.
Well, first of all, she's an incredible talent on her own. She was in the original company of Jekyll and Hyde, and then she took over the lead from Linda Eder, and then wound up leaving the show and coming back and playing Lucy off and on. And she actually closed the show with David Hasselhoff. She played Pam. She was in the original company of Urban Cowboy, the musical. She did Dracula, the musical. She was doing a lot of work out of state. When our son was born, well, when he was probably, I guess, about 4.5, she was doing Sweeney Todd, playing the beggar woman out at Gateway Playhouse. We only got to see her once a week.
Wow.
We'd take the ferry over, and she'd come over, we'd have a lunch. And Jackson would then go home with me, my little boy. And that Christmas, when she came home, she said to Jackson, what do you want for Christmas? And Jackson said that you don't go out of town again. It's like, oh. So
yeah.
She switched it up, and she stopped touring and stopped traveling, and she cut her concerts, and she's now worked at every local theater in Connecticut, and that worked out great. She got like 6 Best Actress nominations, and she just won 2 years ago for Singing in the Rain. And then her teaching work, which is extraordinary, because the way that my wife teaches is to find the essence of who you are and elevate you to be the best you can be. There's not like a box you're supposed to be in, or a technique you're supposed to do, or no, do it this way. She works with each person individually. And that's amazing to watch. And she's built an amazing company of actors. We actually met in Darren Starr's office in New York City years ago, auditioning for a show called Central Park West.
Okay.
And she knew me from TV. I didn't know her. And we were flirting like crazy, but we were both involved with other people. So basically, I'm a good guy, so I don't do that stuff. So I just said, go get that job. And I left. And she like watched me win. And she was like, wow, too bad, you know. So 4 years later, that was in New York. 4 years later in LA, I've now broken up with the full rotation pea soup girl.
Right.
And she's broken up with her crazy dude. And I'm going to my apartment with 2 cups of coffee, and she's on the balcony next to my apartment door, looking at me. Like, hi. And I went, hi. And we dated that night. We went out and had Thai food, started dating like inexclusively for quite a while. And then that was it. I went to go see her in Central Park. I was looking for her, and I was looking for blondes. I didn't have my phone. And I'm like, a blonde on a Saturday afternoon in Central Park. And these people are going by, and suddenly the sun like moved near the Dakota, and it was like God was the gaffer. This burst of light hits the back of my hair, and this like everything but the angels singing. Right. Out of my mouth comes my wife. And that was when I knew I was going to marry her. And I asked her that. That was like, I don't know. I asked her like 4 or 5 months later.
Hey, man. Hey, I love it.
We got our 15-year-old boy who's taller than I am, Jackson.
Oh, wow. Do you have a favorite sports team?
Well, yeah, because it's my son. So I have to do whatever it's the Nets. It's the
Brooklyn Nets. Oh, man. I know he's Oh, I know he's on pins and needles to see what's going to happen with that.
Yeah. Like, oh, there's so talk about drama, right? There's like that's the soap opera going on there. Now I get to watch my son play, and this has been a vertical learning curve for me. I mean, I didn't know the game. I didn't understand
Sure.
the rules. I mean, 4 Christmases ago, he bought me Basketball for Dummies. Okay, so he knew.
Oh, wow.
And I've been on a vertical learning curve, just learning everything. And then there's the AAU world that I know you know about.
Right.
I didn't know there were places with 54 basketball courts running simultaneously. Like, what am I watching? And the college coaches with the clipboards and
Yeah.
the madness of it. But it's his passion. And when I watch him play, the look on his face when he's playing basketball is like me on a set. It's where he's the most home. It's feel like you're home. It's like him taking that three shot.
Then is oh wow, that's
his element.
I mean that's beautiful that you see that in him, and especially coming from your lineage of actors, and you got an athlete now, but that's also theater in him.
Well, I said you're in the last industry of entertainment that's going to be making money. you're in sports, and his dream is to play. He'd love to play in Europe for like 4 or 5 years actually, and then move into sports management. That's sort of, and we'll see. I mean, the college coaches have already started. He's getting scouted already. That whole process has begun. So.
Listen. If he gets a call from Coach John Shire at Duke, he need to throw the rest away.
Absolutely.
And just head on down to. I'm a big Duke college basketball fan.
It's amazing. Duke's amazing. We'll see. He's got D1 schools on the list. He's got D3s as well, depending on where he wants to go. This is his junior year. Again, he got drafted to an older team, which tells you about his skill set. But as you also know, junior year high school, this is when, we'll know. It's like, is he on fire? And the kid works 4 hours a day. He works out.
Well, I'm going to tell you the blessed part of it, that what you and your wife has created for him, right? Which is he can pick where he think he would have the most enjoyment, right? And what would be for him versus having to pick to where he thinks he's got to get to the league real fast because he's trying to do something for his family. Mom and dad have already done that. So now
he doesn't have that pressure.
Right.
And he's got the reality check. Like as a matter of fact, we were playing down in Raleigh and had to land in Winston-Salem and drive, right? And no, it was the reverse. Landed in Raleigh, drove to Winston-Salem.
Okay.
We had to go by Duke. And I was like, you want to pull in and go look? Why not look? And he's like looking at his cell phone, checking the stats for the team he's about to play. And he goes, Dad, I'm probably not going to Duke. And I was like, why do you say that? He goes, I'm not the top 0.4% shooter in the country. That's why. I was like, okay, but don't give it up yet. He goes, oh, I have.
Yeah. Hey, especially when especially you still got time in high school. And like you say, so much stuff has changed because I remember guys who came into a program as freshmen, okay, but not that, and then left junior, senior, and they were superstars. And now they put pressure on kids to be superstars. And I always say this person is still trying to figure out who they are, what kind of man they want to be, and you trying to make this person. So that's why I said that was good that you and your wife have already created that avenue.
Yeah. And he also believes, as we do from the theater, it's even when you're the lead, as my father used to say, even when you're the star, you're just a brushstroke in somebody else's painting. Yeah? It's like ego, that. Right? So he knows that, particularly in basketball, as he says, this is a game of assists. He's looking for people who are open. He's like, one of the most generous players I've ever seen.
Okay.
Now, and he can take those threes, but he wants the team to win. He has a different mentality. So often now I'm watching these kids, the pressure to be the superstar.
Yeah.
And they're a team of one. And you watch these kids drive down like, dude, there's 5 defenders on you. They're going to mug you and take your wallet.
Pass the ball.
Doing?
Pass the ball.
The ball.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm sitting home saying the same thing. Pass the ball. I just had 2 more questions for you.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Finish it.
Oh, and if you want to watch him play, just Google him. Just Google my son's name, Jackson Bryce, and you can
Jackson Bryce. Okay. I will do. What relaxes you?
Wow. Walking in the woods is what relaxes me. Particularly if I'm tense and there's a lot of stuff going in my brain. And I mean, I'm talking like I can walk for 8 miles. Like I'll just like walk. There's something about being in the woods and being a part of nature that we as humans, we cut it off. We isolate ourselves. Sometimes I'm not even sure we were really from this planet. You know, why do we need Jews? They don't. Why don't, you know, it's like we're just disconnected. And so I find if I can be with the animals, you know, we also think we're so smart. If you go walk in the woods, there's silence, right? There's about 10,000 creatures around you. They all know who you are. They know exactly where you are. And we're clueless. It's like, who's the dummy here, right? So I try to connect with that more, just sort of that tree that's been here long before I was born, is going to be here after I was, you know, after I'm gone. Because my audition or, you know, my show got canceled. What, the tree doesn't care.
The tree, nature doesn't care at all.
Doesn't care at all. There's something, and that's just closer to me, closer to the creator, closer to spirit, and trying to find what's true. That's where I do my meditation.
Okay.
And I zone it out. So yeah, it's walking.
And my final question for you is, what matters to you?
My family, my son, protecting him. And then after that, I'm heartbroken at the state of our world. I am heartbroken at the level of rage and anger and arrogance. I'm heartbroken to watch our planet cook when all of the answers are actually in front of us. And what stops us is this. It's greed and power. And, you know, if we could learn to take that walk in the woods and honor that tree that's been here before us and will be here after us, and then what are we screaming about? I mean, our country is like, you know, when I was a kid, people weren't getting shot for going shopping or going to church.
Yeah.
You know, we have shootings here continuously. And other countries have mental health problems, and other countries have violent movies and video games. But we are particularly horrifying at killing each other. So that breaks my heart. And yet I also know that the answers are here. We have to make the correct choices. We can save this planet. We can be the good shepherd, or we can be Armageddon. And the choice is ours. And I hope that we make the right choice.
Well, I can tell you, for you blessing me with your presence today, that I always tell people all is not lost, because here's a African-American man interviewing a Caucasian man who I watched do his thing years ago when I was a kid, teenager, you know, and you're sitting here, we're doing this interview. So, you know, like you said, with all the things that's going on, you know, in the world, when you said you would do the interview, you know, I was so happy. One, I always wanted to talk to you, but at the same time, it's for people to also know with my show is that I interview people from all walks of life. It's not.
I noticed that about you when Corey Ball told me to go check out your stuff, and I did, and I was watching, and I thought I was actually very impressed with that. And I thought, here's a man who's reaching for all kinds of people, who do all kinds of different things. And, I thought you're looking for excellence, or you're looking for people who are trying to do something. And so I respect you.
Thank you. And that's why I called it interruptions, to interrupt the norm, and That's why I told you that it goes where you take it, because you've been in this business a long time, and you know when the interviewer has an agenda, they're trying to lead you to down a certain road because they're trying
Yeah.
to get to this one question they've been wanting to ask, but they can't lead with that question.
Right.
And I always told people, I'm not doing that type of show. I'm not doing that type. I want to give something that uplifts people, but I want people to kind of know, get a glimpse of like who Scott is versus just the actor or the writer. But when we talk about those things like we did, I like to get into the minutia of it,
Of course.
especially so when someone sees it, they won't know. Because as you know, some people think acting is just okay. I just play this. And Bill Dukes told me, he said, no, it's being. You have to
Correct.
be. And it's funny because you took it a step further though with theater when you said, but basically you have to be with the audience as well.
Yes. And you have to allow them. There's what they call the fourth wall, which is, the audience sits out there. There's three walls to the sets. There's that fourth wall, which we have in our brains. But at the same time, even when I'm on stage deeply in character, it's sort of like a puppeteer with a marionette, right? There's the characters working and doing and experiencing and feeling. The actor, Scott Bryce, saw the exit sign over there and somebody just walked by it, and there's a guy in the third row who keeps coughing, right? All those things are also happening. And an audience is making like murmurs and talkings and all this stuff, and then it settles and it becomes something else. And then they all become part of the same thing. And I feel this energy, that the energy and the focus and the hope of the theater, if we could transfer that to our world, if we could just like turn off the lights and open our brains and our hearts and experience what is in front of us without judgment, oh, the things we could learn, right?
Yeah.
So
I,
I think that's what you're trying to do, and I really honor that.
Thank you. I would love, based on your schedule, but I would love to bring you and your wife and you back again. I do, and here's why I say that. I did this thing called testimony, and what I did was I had actor Ernest Thomas on. I had author Janet Aguilar on. I had Pastor Tim excuse me, Fryer on, and then I had legendary singer Paul Anthony from the group Full Force on. And what everybody was doing is giving what they had been through and how they overcame it. And so I try to use that when you were talking about, battling alcohol, is I like to bring people together to do that, so people who are watching could know, no matter how far you think you went, whether life has thrown you a curve or you took yourself down that path, whatever, that you can overcome it. Because what you mentioned earlier, so many people dealing with mental health, they don't understand that they can overcome it. So I
Yep.
try to put something out like testimony so people can hear that these incredible people such as yourself have been through things and overcome it, and look at them on the other side living life, and living their best life. So I like to bring you back on that. And then
I'd be honored to, Otis. I'd be
the
honored to.
other one is matching you and your wife's schedule. I do a thing on marriages. Now, I've done a part one and a part two. And what it is people like you and your wife who are in the same industry, right? And how you marry and coexist and don't deal with the jealousy because somebody's career is taking off right here and the other person's career is kind of at a standstill a little bit or not as high, you know, and how you coexist and work the marriage out. So everyday people can realize,
It's tricky.
get it together, right? So
Yeah, it's like, yeah, and like, we're all of us. You cannot be a human on this planet in this day and not have some struggles going on in your life. And
yeah.
I would wish the kindness to be able to know that as we encounter each other, we're all fighting demons down there somewhere.
Somewhere.
So even as that person's smiling, going, have a good day, that's a hero, because they've been able to overcome whatever that demon is and say, have a good day. When we're as a society being able to get to this point of comfort of you and I being able to talk to each other.
Oh yeah, man.
Let's go. Come on. We've been, what was all that we couldn't,
Thank you.
It's
Yeah.
like, it's madness. It's madness. So we need kindness, we need openness, and we need to listen. And
Well, I'll work those out. I'll work those, schedules out. You'll let me know, and we'll figure it out, and we'll try to do it this week. So, once again, thank you for coming on the show, blessing us with your presence. Do me a favor and stay safe out there, and continue to stay blessed.
You too, sir. Thank you so very much. Peace out.